All right, this is how to make standard tri-tip, my favorite recipe. Basically, all I did to prep this was I took it and I salt brined it, trimmed off a little bit of the fat. The brine, what it does is it actually tenderizes the meat and kind of brings out a little bit of that natural color. You can see how pretty that piece of meat is. So if you've had one sitting for a day or two, or it's come out of the freezer, it's a good way to kind of bring it back to life. This is the simplest thing to do. Now I like to pair my tri-tip with a cider constantly. So the 2 Towns Bright cider from Oregon is a nice one. Just have extra virgin olive oil here. Just put it all over it. Nice little liberal amount on there. Now, something to keep in mind is try not to mess up both of your little Dexter gloves right away, because you're gonna need to pick up things, and if it's anything like my house, my wife doesn't like a lot of raw meat all over the salt shaker, which is fair. Now this is what I brined it with here. It has to be like a big rock salt, and just need 5 to 10 minutes and get that off. Any longer, you're gonna cut into the meat and screw it up. This is the secret right here, the Gospel Barbecue Meat Church, or barbecue rub from Meat Church. Now it's Sunday, so it's fine to go to church, especially when it's Meat Church. Now you just take this here and just basically break it down all over the entire unit. And you like to do this on a dinner plate. Part of the reason you do it on a dinner plate is so that it kind of keeps all the spices right there for you, so you don't have it falling all over a cutting board or something ridiculous. But as you get it going, and you can also use that dinner plate kind of to dab it up, and it becomes almost like a gel that's all over that meat. Make sure you get it on the sides and everything. And there, and now it's ready to go, so it's kind of worked in. Now when you get to the final stage here, you can start using that other hand, but we still have to add, I like to add just the tiniest little bit of black pepper to give it a little bit of extra oomph. Now it seems like a lot, but it actually kind of breaks down as you get it all over that piece of meat on the underside and everything. And if you feel like you need to put more, to each their own. But now this thing is actually ready to rock and roll. All I have to do at this point is wait at least a half an hour. I like to give mine like an hour, hour and a half before we take it to the smoker, but we'll let this rest. We'll get back to it, and we'll see if we can't make a little piece of meat around here. All right, it's time to smoke the meat. Make sure you did at least a half an hour on that. We've got ours for over 45 minutes now, so we're ready to do it. Got my Traeger grill. Here's a little bit of a bro tip. First of all, if you're gonna do this in under 2 hours, you don't have time for all the extra smoking. So the nice thing is the tri-tip's already gonna tenderize a little bit on its own. Plus you did the salt brine, and then you topped it off with your own seasoning a while ago. It should be good to go. So you just turn it on, go right to 180 degrees and get it going. The fact that it's warm out here already helps today, but you might want to, if it's colder weather, kind of remember your Traeger is never going to be, if it's not a brand new state-of-the-art one, it's never going to be right on temp if it's cold outside. So take your foil you had your meat covered with and wrap it up, and you can actually use that as a scraper. A lot of times you come out and it's rusty and gross. You just use this, brand new, gets the whole thing ready to rock and roll. And then of course if it's super nasty, you got to deal with it, but this is for the light cleanup. And then you just toss that aside. You've also got your meat ready to go. You don't want to like tear it up by like ripping all your seasoning off, so what I like to do is just kind of push it onto the grill, and we'll come back in like a half an hour. I'll drink some more of that 2 Towns cider, and we'll see how it's looking. All right, we're a half an hour in, so we're gonna give it a look. And we're at about 196 degrees on the Traeger, and the meat itself, we can tell, is not ready. So I'm not gonna stick a thermometer into it right now, because that's just gonna make it bleed, and we're kind of trying to build that coat. So I know it looks good. We're gonna come back in another half hour, and for now, we're gonna leave it at 180 degrees. All right, while we wait for the Traeger to finish up, we've got your little side we've got here. Do a cast iron, take these mini potatoes, they're in every grocery store now, it's super trendy, and just take some of the olive oil you had left, toss them in that, and then you're gonna wanna add that sea salt that you had outside as well, all the same ingredients. Then you'll take this and then you'll put it in the oven, 425 for about 40-45 minutes, and you'll be able to figure it out from there. Always keep the chow on the other side of the oven, or not doing it like that. Hey, we're creeping right up on that 90-minute mark, and I checked it, and we're still at 120, 122, and that can change when you're smoking meat. It's not always the same. You got to play the temperature game more than the time game, so we've turned it up to 250, and we're looking for that temperature of 140, because even though 145 is medium rare, we want to kind of let it creep to that as it rests and waits for dinner, and we wait for those oven potatoes to finish. I think we're going to be right where we want to be. Doing the math on it, we want to be at like 140, because 145 is about where you want to be your serving temp, and if you start at 145, you're likely going to get more of a medium than a medium rare, and if you like that good, that bloods on feel, that's what you're going to want to do. So now that we've got our temp, it's gonna be simple. We're just gonna pull this thing, and then try not to rip your seasoning up too much, because you've worked hard on this puppy. Look at that. Are you kidding me? That thing is ready to go, and then you want to cover it quick. This is an important part, because for the next 20 minutes, this thing's gonna continue to cook, and it's gonna be important for you to have a kind of a loose lock on it. And then when your potatoes are done, you'll pull this and we'll slice it, and you're gonna see it's the perfect 2-hour tri-tip. All right, potatoes are done, or at least we hope so. You gotta make sure though, open it up. Always when you're using cast iron, don't be silly. That will burn the daylights off your stuff. On top of that, just take a fork and just dive it in. Ooh, soft and fluffy means we're good to go. You can bring them to the table, and it's time to cut the meat. The final moment, it's time to check out what we've got here. So you gotta leave it covered for about a half hour, just to kind of let the juices, actually they start to come out, and then when it's covered, it'll actually suck back into your meat. Now, the fact that I've got it on a plate here kind of also help preserve some of those juices if you decide that you want to use them later. So what I like to do is I like to pull it off, throw it onto a cutting board, and then always cut against the grain. That's important. So you got to take it, and then you got to go against the grain. You can cut a piece off, and then the stuff closest to the edge is going to be the more well done. If you get a little farther in, you'll see the more juicy stuff where it's actually leaking straight out. So enjoy your meal, and try my tri-tip, and make sure that you use the ingredients that we put in the description. Bon appetit.